Hey guys, welcome once again, and of course if you're watching the replay, the best way to get a hold of us is make sure that you know when I go live, and the only foolproof way that I know of is make sure you click that notification bell, because if you don't click the notification bell, sometimes you get notifications in your subscription feed. Sometimes you don't. It's just hit or miss with YouTube. So the best way to do it is click the bell down below, making sure you get kind of every notification. And YouTube still staggers notifications. And I've been noticing people, myself included, whenever I subscribe to channels, sometimes even if I always have the bell clicked, sometimes it doesn't even show up. But at least it makes it more likely that you get a notification when I go live or whenever I have a video out. So that's just something to do. It looks like the chat's already rocking. I still have the chat up for now, but YouTube actually has a new feature in the replay. Comment and let me know if it works, where the live chat should show up while you're watching. So you're kind of still part of what's going on. And that's a fairly new feature, I think, of this last couple of weeks it kind of came out. Someone in the chat mentioned the use of the Mountain House discount code. As usual, that's in the description. And so make sure you check it out. That expires here, I believe, in the end of March, and then I'll get a new one out. Of course, it always makes more sense if you're getting Mountain House meals from mountainhouse.com, and I'm an ambassador from them, of course, that you kind of buy in bulk. If you don't buy in bulk, you just don't save as much, but the code is for 30% off, which is fairly significant. But today's chat, I just usually like to set an overall structure with what we're doing. What we're talking about today is actually kind of what Jason just released a video about, and I did a video a little while ago about as well. It's kind of saving money on backpacking gear, making sure you kind of get quality stuff. And Jason hits a lot of from Outdoor Adventures. He's in the chat. Most of you guys know him. We kind of have similar audiences, but you know, he hit a lot of great points in terms of how to save money and kind of some really important things. Researching, I always find this most important when you buy things, to do research and just buy it one time rather than buying again and again or realizing what doesn't work. So kind of learn from experience of other people who kind of have done reviews either on Amazon or on YouTube. Kind of ask people how what they've used. And I think he ended with that point, and that was a really excellent point, I think, to consider and to kind of think about. And so that's a good video to watch. Let's see. Lots of people going to different places, and I always ask people if they're going someplace new this weekend. Through hiking the foothills trails. Oh, thanks, Lap. The Oil Creek video, I think, was a lot of fun. That was a very different. It's one of those videos I wasn't sure whether I was going to put up, and I decided to just put up a shorter video of kind of hitting the high points of what we did, just because it wasn't really a backpacking trip. But that trip to Oil Creek in Pennsylvania kind of makes me want to do the loop, just because it was so pretty, and with their shelter system, how they have set up, you probably can go fairly light. I have to look at the map and see how the shelters are kind of situated. But man, PA's shelter system and state park system, I always say, is just phenomenal. It always surprises me how good a job they do of not only maintaining their trails, but also their shelter system. It's just hands down one of the best areas I think I've stayed in. Between the Laurel Highlands hiking trail and the Oil Creek, just the camping video that we just did, I was just been really impressed with it. So saving money and backpacking, some things that Jason talked about, I kind of hit on in a previous video, but I always say check out your Facebook groups. And that's one of the reasons why I can't, some people kind of get rid of Facebook and don't use it as much. But Facebook groups are hands down where I get most of my deals. And if you jump on it really quickly, so for example, I just bought or will buy one of those trail wallets, and you've kind of seen them made. I know Z-Pack sells a trail wallet. Just made out of DCF. I think they sell theirs for $10. I've seen them on Facebook before. People sell them for like close to $20. But this guy is selling it for $8. Jeff Myers from kind of Myers Tech Hammocks. He kind of has a small cottage, just a one man shop, kind of making hammocks and handmade sort of gear, if you will. And so he's selling them, but he's just making it out of a different material, still waterproof, still using waterproof. It's kind of seam sealed and still making it out of kind of waterproof material, just a heavier nylon. But since it's a wallet, I'm going to carry it anyway. And so check out Facebook for sure. Special places was at Yosemite 2 weekends ago. Hike with Mike hates Facebook. We have only been live since about 9 o'clock, so only about 4 minutes. So you haven't missed anything much so far. We're just talking about kind of ways to save money on backpacking gear. Outdoor Adventures just came out with that video. I just kind of watched it before I got on, and so it's been we've just been talking about that. Hey, Marlo. Navigator, recommend getting 40 degree and 20 degree underquilts, then use both to get warm below 20 degrees. Yeah, more flexibility than the 0 degree underquilt. Yeah, I agree with that. I think stacking quilts is also an excellent way to save money. I know Jason, when we were out in Laurel Highlands, he I believe he did that for his underquilt. Yeah, I think he had kind of a 0 top quilt and kind of stacked underquilts, because especially we had different night temperatures, that we had a major swing from about 18 degrees one night or 22 degrees one night to 40 degrees the next night. And so it was nice to have that flexibility. And you can even stack, those Costco quilts. If you do a DIY underquilt for a hammock, you can kind of just stack those and take it a lot lower than just a single Costco underquilt. So that's a fantastic idea. Trevor may bail on a PA trip I had planned for the first week of April. That's a bummer. But going south now? Yeah. RRG or the Smokies, which did you like better? Oh, that's tough, but I would choose the Smokies, hands down. People who kind of have followed me for a while know that the Smokies is kind of my jam. I just love the trails in the Smokies. It's one of those things where, yeah, there are peaks and yeah, there are features to see, but I find I enjoy hiking those features more in the Smokies than anywhere else. Red River Gorge, I think, is beautiful, and don't get me wrong, on the features I love. I just don't enjoy the trails as much because most of them are out, of course, in the gorge. Let me just check, make sure my sound is okay. Yeah, and so you're just kind of stuck in the gorge for a lot of it, and so you get to the feature, and so like this past weekend we were at Red River Gorge, which was awesome, by the way. And if you have a chance to check out Red River Gorge soon, there's actually a bunch of snow around, or there has been, and we kind of were there when it fell, and so it was really beautiful to see the gorge that way. I've never seen the gorge that way before. That was my 4th time to the gorge, kind of doing a backpacking trip there, and I still haven't seen it all. There's a lot to see off trail, but in terms of the gorge, you tend to be stuck in the gorge, and so the trails itself I'm not a huge fan of, but the high points, the features, are hands down, comparable to the Smokies. But personally, I would choose the Smokies. Big is talking about roasting bags instead of freezer bags. I haven't tried roasting bags. I've heard of freezer bags or vacuum seal bags, I think, have worked, or I've seen that. That reminds me, Big, one of the things I wish I had on this most recent trip to Red River Gorge is actually bread bags. And I typically don't bring them, but on this trip I thought to myself it would be kind of awesome to have dry socks and slip the bread bags over your feet, and that's kind of one of the hacks that you use. Stick them into wet shoes and it still keeps your socks dry, and I would use that primarily around camp because let me just write that down. Yeah, primarily around camp, just to keep dry socks, so I don't have to keep putting on my wet socks again, taking them off, drying my feet, and putting back on those wet socks. So something I wish I had. Yeah, the cost. Yes. Let's see. I'm missing some stuff. Yep, Costco underquilt. Hey, Gucci girl and Grumpy. Yeah, the Costco underquilt is a handy way to make sure you save some cash. Let's see. Super Josh in the house. Stacking underquilts. So let's bring this down. I don't know why I keep forgetting to do this. Make sure I bring that down a little ways. Yep. The hiking guy is going Saturday. I know, actually, it's funny. I know, I think of 3 or 4 separate people going to the gorge on Saturday, Chris. So don't be surprised if you YouTubers run into each other. I know of a couple people. If you're going Saturday, I think you are maybe the 3rd person who's told me they may be going this weekend. So it may be a crowded place, the Red River Gorge. Yeah, Red River Gorge was awesome. I think if you follow me on Instagram, it's let's see, is it in the description? Yes, my Instagram is in the description. You usually will get a preview of what is coming on the channel. And so be sure to check out my Instagram and follow me there. I've been doing stories occasionally, and it's all backpacking related. That's kind of, I keep my social media, my Facebook page, all this, it's all backpacking related. There's nothing that's truly personal or you would be bored by. If you like backpacking, that's the thing to follow. Yeah, and Chris, I'm looking forward to seeing what you think of your Raven. I think it's been fantastic. Yeah, Nick, you saw my my Darwin move. I always laugh whenever I see him do that. If you've been following me on Instagram, one of the things that you will see is that I have a frameless backpack. If you followed my stories, and so I actually picked up, and this is for those of you guys who are watching the replay, I picked up a Superior Wilderness Designs 30-liter frameless backpack, and it's actually, let's see if we can, let's hide the chat for a moment, and so you can actually see it. Oh, wrong shoulder, right there. And so I've not carried it extensively yet. I still have to kind of put some weight on it, of course. 18 to 20 pounds is the range, and I'm finally to the point where I think my summer loadout is going to be low enough that should feel comfortable. And actually my loadout in Red River Gorge, and that was still my 3-season loadout, was only about 19 pounds, and so in a summer loadout I can get even lower, and my base weight will be ultra light. So I'm looking forward to testing that. I decided to try the frameless, kind of give it a chance and give it a solid one, and so that's one of the things I want to try. I actually tried with my Arc Haul, just kind of going without a hip belt for parts of the gorge to see how comfortable it would be, and it was fine. It was honestly fantastic. I didn't have an issue with it. One thing I know I will miss is that mesh back panel that the Arc Haul has, and I'll see how I do. I honestly am looking forward to kind of carrying it quite a bit. I'll start walking with it a little bit more around the neighborhood, load it up, of course, and seeing what that's like. The one adjustment I did get to the Superior Wilderness Designs packs is I got that Palante style bottom pocket. That's an option that they had, and I've seen Gary use it on the Laurel Highlands Trail, and I thought to myself, that is fantastic, because the one thing that I didn't feel comfortable leaving is hip belt pockets. But when I saw how many snacks and put his headlamp or gloves or a beanie under that in that stretch pocket in the bottom of his pack, and he can just kind of reach for it, I was like, okay, I'm sold. If I can get that, I'll go ahead and definitely give that a try. Let's see where to go on the first trip to Linville Gorge. EO Navigator, someone in the chat can probably help you out with that, because I have never been to Linville Gorge. I see sometimes that's in North Carolina, I believe. I know Sugar's gone there a couple times, and a couple of people I've watched have gone there, but I just don't know. Hey, no shots fired at Darwin. Hey, if you want to follow me on Instagram, make sure you check it out. Let's see. Okay, good to hear that you're recovering, Grumpy. The ankle, I know you just did a update on kind of how it's going. Hey, Mike Goes Outdoors. Let's see, where I have not said, Jason, in Red River Gorge, actually what we did is we first started off, and you guys will see this in the video, I think in 2 weeks is what I have planned. As we started off, we headed on the way up to Eagles Point. We actually spent most of this trip technically off trail, and so off any official trails where I think we actually have seen a lot of the official stuff, and so it was kind of nice to kind of get off trail quite a bit. So we head up to Eagles Point, which is off trail, which is a beautiful view. The nice thing, I know Adam, the serial photog who is with us, kind of likes it, and so did Karate Josh, likes it better than Hanson's Point. I still think Hanson's Point is my personal favorite, but Eagles Point is pretty cool, and it had a lot less people. Just people don't really necessarily know about it. It was definitely straight up out of the gorge, and so I went ahead and we went up there, hiked up there. Then we took, I think, Osborne Bend trail for quite a ways, and a logging trail, and we headed over to Indian Staircase, which is quite a haul. I think we ended up doing 12 miles that first day, and we got to the trailhead at noon, so we really booked it. Maybe close to 12. It's hard to measure because it's all off trail, but we made it over to Indian Staircase, and then we hiked up that one thing we were really concerned about is beating the light, because it was getting dark fast. And then also we had some rain that was scheduled or forecasted to come down. And so we beat that all, and we made it up Indian Staircase, which is actually more difficult with packs than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I've seen people do it without packs. With packs, some parts were just a little bit more challenging, a little bit more slick. I know some people say they have done that in ice and in rain. I personally would not recommend doing Indian Staircase if it's raining or if it's wet out. It's just, for me, I just think the risk isn't worth it. But it was not bad once you're actually on the staircase kind of going up. and it was a lot of fun. Then we went from Indian Staircase. We kind of camped close to the top of Indian Staircase along that ridge, worked our way around, and then I'll leave the ending as a surprise because it was kind of amusing how the whole trip ended. Let's see what I miss. Okay, new rage in Poland is backpacking with a duffel bag. I'm gonna pass on that one. That hiking guy, Steve Sharon. Let's see. Congrats on the Arc Hall. Yeah, the Arc Hall. Oh, congratulations, Michael. Yeah, I truly believe you like the Arc Hall a lot. Yes, Subaru Josh did not come with us this video. Bleep Bleep Ohio, in terms of no video. Yeah, there'll be a video for the Red River Gorge trip. It's just I'm editing, putting everything together. So probably not this coming Monday, but the next Monday it'll be out. Let's see. Yep, Karate Josh is talking about awesome trip in the gorge. Steve Jacobs, I'm in the New York area, so ready for the weather to change. Yeah, I actually, these two past trips have been a little cooler. Granted, this last trip was not as cold as the Laurel Highlands trip that first night. We still had temps, probably about 33 that first night in the gorge. But I kind of feel like I'm ready. I'm ready for some warm weather trips where if I get soaking wet, I'm not cold at the same time. And so that's how the gorge trip was. A lot of times it was a lot of rain, a lot of snow. It was a lot of tromping through wet underbrush, and it was just, I'm ready for warmer weather. Do people mistake you for Ramathorn from Super Troopers? All the time, all the time. I think if you actually ask Subaru Josh, he'll give you a meme he made of me kind of looking like Ramathorn from Super Troopers. Let's see. Love winter trips. Yeah, by the end of winter, just more weight. I'm ready for some warm weather. Hawk Daddy hiking in Missouri. We're in Missouri, Hawk Daddy. Josh dealing with an ankle injury for the last 8 months. Know how you guys feel. Yeah, Jason is talking about that Palante style bottom pocket if you put your pack down. I guess since it doesn't have that mesh back, you just put your pack down straps first. I think in wet weather, I probably would say your gear would get wet. It's not waterproof or watertight. One thing that I know looked like Superior Wilderness Designs did differently, Jason. The Palante pack, you can kind of reach. Both sides are kind of open. You kind of reach either one. The SWD style pocket is only kind of one, and the other end is sealed, and so that probably will help kind of reduce it getting wet a little much. Of course, all the water is dripping down toward that point. And so I guess I would be careful with it in terms of food. I'd probably lay my pack down on the mesh pocket and not away from the bottom pocket more so than I usually do. I'm not too worried about it in wet weather. Wet weather, I'll just put stuff in my pack anyway. Yeah, Indian Staircase, not when it's wet. I did do the Loop Pass Frogs Knob. And so, yeah, we also saw Council Chambers while we were down there as well, because it's right off Indian Staircase, which is a pretty cool kind of rock shelter that's up there. And so just fantastic. The gorge, excuse me, the gorge this past weekend was just beautiful. So it was one of those things where we kind of had both weather. If you follow me on, I keep saying, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see just we had just beautiful weather to start with, and then we ended up waking up to snow. And so that was different. I know we had expected maybe an inch or two of snow, but we actually got a lot more snow than I thought we were going to have. See you later, Scott. And so it was just different seeing the gorge in the snow. Of course, you had to be a little bit more careful. I felt you had to be a little more careful because things were really slick. And if you've ever been to Red River Gorge, you know exactly how many rock slabs are all over that place. And so you really had to make sure that what you were doing is taking your time. And it may be time for me to get some more, change out my trail runners. It's getting to the point where the tread is starting to wear down. It's lasted kind of 2 solid years, 2 solid seasons. And so just the tread is starting to go a little bit. Keep the snow coming. Let's see. I usually hang my pack. 11-point section. So that's in Missouri, Hawk Daddy, the Ozark Trail. I never heard of that one. I know I got a notification of Gary's video out. And yes, I did almost say that, Jason, but I stopped myself. It reminded me of Spigiver's, was it the Appalachian ultralight pack or whatever it was? That's the name of it. But yeah, both sides of that Palante style pocket are open, and you can actually add a lot of features. So I think my SWD pack is 13.12 ounces when I measured it. And of course that has like a removable webbing hip belt, some ice axe or trekking pole loops, sternum strap, and you don't need all that stuff, but I kind of like having it. It's only, you know, a little bit more, maybe an ounce for some comfort. I grabbed some surface. Okay, talking about hot tenting, I think. Okay, I know, right? It was Toss-Up and Tim Live. Oh, I won! Thank you, Tom. Yeah, you can always see Gary's video. I saw the notification. I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that later. Yeah, we've had a lot of good videos out today. It seems like we're getting some more videos out on Wednesday, and Jason is posting more regularly, which is nice to see. Rather than just some trips, he's posting a little more regularly about some other backpacking related things, which I always like. I actually just texted him before kind of getting on here because I'm like, hey, you know, people always ask kind of about YouTube and backpacking YouTube channels, and if it's kind of like a competition. Are you in competition with Jason, or are you in competition with someone else? And SB Outdoors or Restless Outdoors or whoever. And I always feel like there's enough room on YouTube for tons of backpacking channels, and there's honestly not enough backpacking channels, which might be kind of weird for me to say. But the benefit of having more backpacking channels and backpacking becoming more popular is that your videos kind of get recommended off of each other. And so Jason and I, for example, have very similar audiences, and so usually if I release a video and he releases a video, we're both going to get videos watched, especially if we have related content. Sometimes, like when we did the Laurel Highlands Trail together, we both saw this, where kind of both our videos kind of got watched by the same people, and we kind of attracted new people that may not necessarily have known us from the other's audience. Of course, his audience is bigger than mine, and so I get to benefit a little bit more from that. Let's see, some questions. Yeah, I know Restless Outdoors also has a good video out today, some personal questions, and Jason makes a cameo. Hey, Adam Z. Thanks, Michael, for the reminder. Just if you can like, that'd be awesome. Just like the video, gives me more engagement and more people can see. I'm about to ban you for hitting on another, for denigrating another YouTuber there, Josh. More backpacking videos, less. Yes. So what else one thing I thought was interesting is that I think a lot more people watched the most recent Oil Creek Trail camping video than I thought. And I said earlier that I wasn't sure if I was going to post it or not, just because what do you guys think in the chat? Go ahead and respond. What do you think about more camping style videos? Because I tend not to do as much camping, honestly. I tend to get a little bit bored of camping. And that's one of the reasons I like backpacking, is because I like hiking to a spot, camp a little bit, and then I get to move on. I feel like when I end up going camping, I tend to end up a little bit more bored. If I make it a day hiking trip with some camping, even if some more camping, I guess I'm fine with that. But when it becomes like hours and hours of just camping, unless it's extreme cold weather or something that takes, I think, a lot of effort, I just get a little bored of making a video like that, and also of being on the trip. I always tell people, whenever I go on trips, I try to make them backpacking trips if possible, because I always protect the time that I have out, because I always have limited time to go on trips. And so I try to plan one a month. And if my one a month is camping, I always feel like I kind of got gypped a little bit. I always feel like, I could have done more this past trip. I should have gone to the Smokies, or I should have gone up to Michigan or somewhere else. And so what do you guys think about more more camping style trips? Maybe I'll feel differently in a month or two when it warms up and we have a little bit more time to go camping out. But camping style trips don't interest me as much as maybe hiking and camping together. Let's see. Do all types of videos. Yeah, I'll keep doing it, and they're definitely all related for sure. So yeah, and camping opens up. Hey, Doc, bushcraft side of it. How much video do you shoot? This is a good question. How much video do I shoot versus what makes it onto YouTube? I always say it's about half. And so let's say this most recent Red River Gorge trip, I think I took maybe a little over an hour of footage. And so the video is going to be about 30 minutes, maybe a little less. It just depends. A good rule of thumb for me on a typical 3-day, 2-night trip, let's say an hour-long video, that means I'll take about 2.5 hours worth of footage. So, yeah, Brian, and I know that's exactly who I was thinking of, is the camping kind of bushcraft videos of Joe Robinette, and his style is great, and I think just people have to kind of find their own niche or their own audience and kind of see what people like. And sometimes you just kind of take the person along. It just depends on how engaging it is. Because, I mean, I've watched some camping videos that... Oh, excuse me, I got some allergies tonight or something. I know some camping style videos, there's some that can be boring. And then some, depending on how they're edited and also kind of how engaging the person is, can be kind of a lot of fun. Camping is boring unless I have family members with me that don't. Yeah, and I agree. I think we're probably gonna see some camping style videos later this summer, maybe 1 or 2, as my family gets to join me. Hey, welcome. Rick is here. Camping trip with some bushwhacking as an activity with some compass work. That would be interesting. And you know, we did a fair amount of bushwhacking in the gorge this past weekend. We didn't need the compass work as much just because we were kind of aware of where the trails were, and we had Adam, who is an awesome gorge expert, with us. It was fantastic. Yep, longer hiking. Yeah, and I think most people who follow my channel are into the hiking and backpacking. Not as much the camping, but I think most people will put up with a camping video occasionally. Let's see. Batteries are always an issue. Just include, yeah. And so far, that's why I've been really pleased. I've actually been toying with the idea. I've been talking to Rick about getting a new camera for YouTube. And so those of you guys who follow my channel know I pretty much use the iPhone 7 exclusively for everything. I used the iPhone 6 before when I first started the channel, and then iPhone 7 is what you see pretty much all the time. I've been toying with getting something for more of the talking head type videos with some B-roll in there, just for in the house, just or my studio, I guess, where I take video, just to kind of get some better footage, and also have a camera that I may take on kind of fair weather backpacking trips just for better photos. But yeah, then I have to worry about more batteries, and the nice thing about the phone is just having the option of just recharging you using a USB cable. You'll see a little bit more family hiking. I'm trying though to, Brian, whenever I do the family hiking videos, trying to make them more engaging. Sometimes I feel like whenever I've seen family hiking videos, it becomes too, I don't know, exclusive is the word I guess I'm thinking of, where it just becomes just too much. This sounds weird. Too much focus on the kids and not enough focus on the trip or the story or the experience. And so it becomes about the kids' experience, and it just seems off to me. Maybe we'll see if I can kind of balance that line. Let's see. It's helpful to see how others pack and hike with kids. Yeah, I'm hoping to start a series of videos, Brian, just about that, about how my pack is going to change, what I'm carrying, how my sleep system is going to change. I'm not as thrilled about. We'll see if it's going to change with a bigger, whole family camping. But if I have one kid, I have an extra hammock, and we can kind of hang under the same tarp probably. The Fitbit still going strong, no problems here. You bought a charge too. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I actually have turned off the heart rate monitor now for trips so it lasts longer, so I can still keep track of steps and kind of just have a rough idea of how many miles I'm doing. For me, it's about 2,000 steps in a mile. Of course, that changes significantly depending on the elevation that you gain. It's not really good at an accurate distance, but it kind of gives you a ballpark figure. Thanks. That's always good to know that you'll watch my videos. And I know it's always funny watching videos, how they perform, and kind of what section of you guys watch. And I'd say my core audience who will watch no matter what has changed. I mean, it used to be, I remember watching it, about 250 people used to watch no matter what I did. And I always tell when it's it's a bad video or a video that's not as exciting to some people. And usually I'll end up with about 1,500 views is kind of my floor now. Of course, I could always go lower, but in general, that's what I'm kind of seeing. So that's kind of nice. I could do that. Yeah, you'll save a lot more battery that way. If you turn off that heart rate feature, you can last days longer. I do not use an Apple Watch for hiking, but we'll see if anyone in the chat does. Most of you guys in the Oil Creek, one of the things you'll notice when you watch my videos, camping or hiking or otherwise, is that we really enjoy the post-hike meal. I don't know why that is. Well, I know why it is, because we were super hungry at that point. But one of the reasons we also have it becomes a highlight is because we try our best to make sure we support local things, local restaurants, and we try to find holes in the wall that we want to stop at. And so last video, if you remember, in Oil City, Pennsylvania, we stopped at Famore's Family Restaurant. And wow, that place was awesome. I mean, we've been to some real hole in the walls, and this was a Sunday morning. Breakfast was their specialty. You guys kind of saw that cinnamon roll, and it was just fantastic. And we just love places like that and just have a lot of character. I think this is the place that the waitress actually started talking to us and started talking about some inappropriate things, and we're like, okay. But it was just a fantastic place. The food was great, and I really enjoyed it. Famore's Family Restaurant. And so you definitely have to try that out. And I still have not tried Miguel's, Benjamin. And the reason is, remember, it's always kind of closed, or it's too early in the season when I go. And so still have not tried Miguel's. Usually what ends up after the gorge, we have stopped at Eli's Barbecue in Cincinnati. And we've also stopped at our go-to in Lexington is Horseshoe Saloon. Super Josh is going to laugh at me, but it's Horseshoe Saloon or something like that. In Lexington, and it's such a hole-in-the-wall place. It's kind of attached next to a hotel, but fantastic burgers every time. We've eaten there 3 times now. I have eaten three times there, and it's fantastic. Going back to what we were talking about, saving money backpacking, though, I want to make sure I hit on this. The 32 Degrees clothing line. I know a lot of people have asked me about that one, and I've used their stuff for if I want kind of budget down, which I know people have some issues with because it's not necessarily ethically sourced down. But 32 Degrees, like their leggings, their jackets, their down shirts, stuff like that, have honestly never let me down. And so if you're looking for kind of reasonably priced gear, backpacking gear, be sure to check out 32 Degrees as a brand. They're at Macy's, they're at Kohl's, they're online as well. So make sure you check it out. And then also, there are a couple of hacks a couple of gear items people kind of asked about. Is that sit pad, is it that much more comfortable than, let's say, a Dutch wear sit pad or an AliExpress sit pad? Now, when I'm talking about sit pads, I'm talking about those foam sit pads that everyone kind of has. One thing you have to make sure, if you have a chance to check them out side by side, is you realize how much more loft or how much more cushy the Thermarest pad is. So you may want to go ahead and try it out, because for me, it's just the AliExpress pad or the other foam pads, they kind of just take the edge off and they're not as comfortable. Whereas the Thermarest pad works great. And how many of you guys in the chat, it seems like a lot of people talked on that video. See you later, Josh. Yeah, the Z seat. A lot of people in that video kind of talked about using backpacking chairs. And it seems, I know some people have their backpacking chairs as kind of their non-negotiable. And it's interesting to me because, hey, more power to you because you're carrying your own thing. But what do you guys think about the amount of weight that you get from a backpacking chair? I know Rick is going to get on me here. What do you guys think about my carrying a backpacking chair? Because usually I've seen it be like a pound plus or minus a few ounces. Is it that much more comfortable than, let's say, a Z seat or something similar where you're carrying that much extra weight? And if it is, what do you think is your overall kind of base weight? Yeah, the inReach is great. I do not cut down the Z seat. And answering that question, oh man, RBenning242 asking a great question in the chat. Tim, do you still use the Osprey Exos? Any issues with the belt loosening? And the Osprey Exos is actually, let's see, left. Ugh, dang it, I always do that. It's over my right. Is right there next to the SWD pack. And I am actually not going to be keeping it anymore. I actually had it, you notice it in the Oil Creek video, kind of hanging up in there in the shelter. And I am not probably going to use it again. And I actually have a video coming out next Monday talking about the reasons why. And I hope you guys check that out. And I did have a little bit of issues with the belt loosening, R-benning, I think it's Rob, at those higher capacities or higher loads. It does slip a little bit. And that's one of the reasons why I love that kind of 4-way belt adjustment system where it just kind of hugs your hips. Going to that 2-way, I just don't think I can go back to that. That's one thing I kind of wanted to still like the Osprey Exos. That's why I kept that 38 around so long. It's because I'm like, oh, I'll still use it. No, I didn't really. Over time, I just stopped using it. And so this Oil Creek trip kind of reminded me of why I don't use it as much anymore. And so it pretty much will end up being, let's see, the Arc Hull and the SWD pack over there, kind of being the main backpacks in my stable, I guess. And so that's something to keep in mind. But it's just kind of for me. That might not be for everyone. And so I always tell people backpack in different ways and different styles. It's just I've kind of moved on from that right now, is what I think. Let's see. Rick is unboxing his Chair Zero. That's what made me think about it, Rick. Or your guitar chair to use it with my pad. Worth it. So that people are saying the backrest is worth it for the comfort. Shorter trips. That's a good comment, I think. Chair pad for Dutch pad for longer. My chair weighs in approximately 2 pounds. Use a knee pad as a sit pad. Yep, that'll work, Marlo. Actually, now that you mentioned that, we were just in the gorge and Adam had, I think it was a piece of like soundproofing foam that he had it laying around and he kind of used as a sit pad. And so a knee pad for gardening will work great. Jason from Outdoor Adventures is saying he uses a chair, probably will never carry a chair, used it in the kayak trip. Helps keep my knees sitting off the ground. My base weight is still at 12 pounds, so that's not bad. But I know you have that duplex, Adam. So that probably helps. Chairs, yeah, 1 pound on the nose. Yeah, hopefully that helps, Rob. I'm actually not, I'm not going to keep it for very much longer. But I honestly will still recommend the Osprey Exo. So I want to make sure I mention that. I'll still recommend the Osprey Rick. I think it's a great pack for people who are kind of working their weight down but haven't necessarily gone ultralight. Ultralight, you can use it still, don't get me wrong. But I think it's a great pack to start with if you have a fairly lightweight setup. Tim I am not an Osprey hater. Oh, the Osprey Levity. That one is, I think I mentioned this in my last video, is that I'm not sure who it's made for. That's kind of my problem with the Osprey Levity, is when I think about it, the things that bother me about it are no hip belt, no kind of outside pockets for you to put anything in while you're hiking. And then I feel like they are less expensive, higher capacity and higher carrying weight options out there. That's my problem. And so I know some people have posted on Facebook before asking me about the Osprey Levity, and that's usually my thing. It's like, why would you pick the Osprey Levity over, let's say, a Z-Packs Arc Hull or something comparable, something like the Superior Wilderness Designs line of packs, a custom-made pack that's made specifically for you versus a mass-produced pack that's more expensive, heavier, and carries less weight. Those are the things that I have an issue with when I consider the Osprey pack. Hiding the shadows. Stephen Wentz, one of my favorite backpacking meals. If you're talking Mountain House, I do have to let you know I'm a Mountain House ambassador. Non-Mountain House, I gotta go with the ramen bomb is a big one. Ramen bomb, and I know it's not really worth the wait, but anything with tortillas is really, really good. In terms of Mountain House, that has to be beef stroganoff is the big one. And then the turkey dinner casserole is a close second. And then third, I'd probably have to go with something like biscuits and gravy. It's fantastic. Do you want to be more comfortable on the hike or the camp? Excellent question. It's going back to the backpacking chair. What about the quick back ultralight chair? It is 2.65 ounces. I've looked into that, Jason. I guess I have never seen that. Micro stool, always carried my chair. Don't do a lot of miles. Just got a Z pad to lighten up. If you're looking at the Exos, don't overlook Granite gear. Excellent point. Gregory Optic, lots of good pack recommendations in the chat, guys, if you're watching the replay. Do I sharpen my own tools? I do not, Jan, and that's one of the things I think. I watch some channels out there, like knife channels, for example. Like Outdoors 55 is a good one that I watch, and I try my best to kind of do things like getting a strop or getting a stone for sharpening, and I still have not gotten the art or the skill down where I want it. I always kind of want to make sure I work on it. It's a skill I keep doing. So right now, I guess I do sharpen my own like knives and stuff like that. But typically, I try not to, honestly. Hiking shoe brand recommendations. Depending on what you're looking for, Jan. If you're thinking about like trail runners, which is what I use, I love the Salomon Speed Cross shoes, but that tends to be a little narrower for some people. I recommend the Ultra with a caveat. I make sure that people know that you do have to get used to zero drop, which is where you're thinking about a hiking shoe, like the Salomon or most shoes are kind of the heel is kind of has a higher drop between the heel and the toe, whereas the Ultra is flat, it's a zero drop, and so you may have a difficulty with that. But Salomon brand shoes I really enjoy, I really like. La Sportiva is also another good one. Are Ultras really as good as they say? And kind of going back to that, Tom, I think they're good. I think they tend to, from what I've seen just from other people using it, I think you can wear them out quickly. And then it depends how your feet respond to having that zero drop. And so I know several people who have had injuries or had to kind of go really slow with the Ultras because your Achilles tendon is not used to not having a higher heel. So that's something to consider. Would you carry a knife on a 3+ night hike? Yeah, I always carry a knife. I usually carry a pocket knife. If you're talking about getting like a huge chopper or a really big knife, I typically do not carry a knife like that, and I probably would not. Least favorite Mountain House meals. Oh, that's a good one, Trevor. You're gonna get me in trouble. Least favorite one. I do not like the vegetarian one they have. It's like a pasta primavera, I think is what it is, and I actually do not like the pepper. They make like a pepper steak one, as I feel like it doesn't get tender enough or doesn't get hydrated well enough, and so I actually do not like that one. So I know some people like the chicken teriyaki. I know that's one of Rick's favorites, but when I think about it, sometimes I have to make sure that I let it sit for a little longer because the rice kind of gets crunchy. So, Adam Z Adventures said he was leery when he bought his Ultras. Talking about Ultras quite a bit in the chat. Not sure how. Yeah, I'm not knocking at Ultras. It just when I've seen it, I think I probably would hurt my Achilles. I just know I would. I hike with that heel, and I know it, and so I probably am never gonna switch to the Ultras. But you have that adjustment. Ultra didn't fit my foot. Yeah, the nice thing with the Ultras, and I think people are gonna probably talk about this in the chat, is that wide toe box, and that kind of makes me a little jealous because I will say the Salomon tends to be, like I said, a little narrower. It doesn't have that wide toe box, and I don't know if my foot does well. My foot does well, kind of having it well supported on kind of both sides. I haven't had an issue with it. But yeah, Jason, I mean, he mentioned his Ultras mids, and he had a lot of issues with it. But he has the Lone Peak 3.5s. See you later, Josh. Marlo's talking about Brooks. Yeah, that's another good shoe brand that comes up occasionally, especially the Brook Cascadia, I think, is the name that kind of I end up seeing a lot of, and so I think that's a fantastic option. Rick is saying he's sitting in his 1 pound Cherry Zero sampling the tomatoes I dried in the dehydrator. And actually, Rick and I were talking about that earlier, and I'm not sure how much money, we were talking about how much money, people going to like dehydrating their own food for backpacking, which I think is great. I think it's another area of the backpacking hobby that people kind of go into. They go into making their own gear, they go into dehydrating their own food, which is fantastic. But I wonder how much money you truly save, and time as well, when you're doing things like that. So we were just discussing that one. Anything with eggs, I can't stand from. In terms of eggs, I think their breakfast skillet I really enjoy. So yeah, I like their egg stuff. Currently wearing Solomon's, but they're almost too narrow. George, I would suggest sizing up like a half size. That's usually what I end up doing, and it fits fine. Chicken and dumpling is one of Subaru Josh's favorites. Let's see, adjusting the ultras. Beef stroganoff is, oh no, beef stroganoff is definitely hands down the best. Wife loves her books. Where can you get the Mountain House turkey and dressing? Right now you can definitely get an REI, and you can also get it at, I've seen it in Walmart occasionally, you have to check there, but mountainhouse.com of course has it. And so I think I've mentioned this before, but there is a code in the description of this video if you check it out, for 30% off Mountain House. Chicken and dumplings. I don't think anyone hates the breakfast skillet, but it seems like Rick might. Breakfast skillet and a wrap is really good. Lasagna is also really good. Yeah, there are lots of good options. Looks like we're coming up on 9:46. We've been going for about 51 minutes. We're gonna if you have any questions or comments, be sure to put them in the chat so I can kind of see them. We're probably gonna wrap up here in the next couple minutes. Wearing Salomon right now, have wide feet, no squeeze for me, and I do the same thing, Bruce. So with Salomons, is I make sure I size up, and I have wider feet too, and I haven't had an issue. Alpine Air peasant omelet has got to be hands down the worst backpacking meal ever, and that's the thing. When I've tried some other freeze dried stuff, and I actually just had a Mountain House event, if you want to call it that, where I kind of did a hiker's corner, and we did some sampling of Mountain House meals at a local hunting or kind of outdoor event. And a lot of people said that they actually were surprised at the difference between freeze dried foods, is that they thought they would end up with like a cheaper freeze dried food and save them some money, and they did. This is of course big manufacturers, and they found that it was not a good experience. So Hoka Stinson's, this is Zero Drop. Have I tried Trailtopia? I have not. New Balance Trail Runners, they seem to be the only company offering wide shoes. Brian, I think Subaru Josh had tried the New Balance Trail Runners. One thing he was afraid of is that it seemed like they would be wear out pretty quickly. It seemed like they look good, but I remember him saying that the quality of New Balance Trail Runners didn't seem like it was up to the standard with La Sportiva or Salomon's. Of course, it's cheaper, so I'm not sure how quickly those Trail Runners from New Balance will wear out on you. John is asking, planning his first overnighter for early April in Connecticut, have a tent, sleeping bag, clothing, and backpack. Keeping the cost in mind, what else would you recommend before my trip? John, I would say go ahead and look at my kind of library of videos. I recently did a $350 backpacking gear loadout. If you're talking about non-worn gear, well, let's start with worn gear. I would definitely say your shoes. If you're thinking about spending some money on something that will increase your comfort and kind of enhance your experience, definitely look at shoes. You're talking sleeping bag, clothing, backpack. Yep, you have those things already. You kind of have those big three set up. Keeping cost in mind, I would kind of look at that list that I did. Things like a Z-Rest seat. Make sure you have a quality pad. That's the one thing I think that's missing from your sleep system that I would definitely check out. Because if you're comfortable, then you're going to want to hike more, you're going to want to backpack more. If you're uncomfortable sleeping, you're just not going to want to do it. Yeah, Gucci Girl and Grumpy, that's probably the one thing that keeps me from doing it is how time consuming the meals are. When you think about how many hours you have to dehydrate things for, and then think about doing it in multiple batches, I'm just like, yeah, it's not worth it to me. Yep, the code does expire 3/31, and that's 30% off. Thanks for mentioning that, Yacht Navigator. And so keep in mind, if you want 30% off, that's the way to do it. I do wear liner socks in the winter, Nick, not in the summer. In the summer months, I'll wear those Right socks. I showed in my last video about 10 backpacking gear items I bring all the time. And so if you think about it, the Right socks are double layer socks, so it's kind of like wearing a liner anyway. So I wear those liner socks only in the winter time, this past hikes. Other times, the Right socks are fine. Last shelter or camp out looked great. How did your mates like the rain? I think everyone's fine in the rain. I think they were probably happy they didn't. I know Super Josh and Jordan were probably happy they didn't have to hike longer in the rain. Karate Josh is fine in the rain, just like me. We're just like, oh, we're just gonna get wet. It is what it is. And it was kind of nice just having the shelter. John, cheap sleeping pad. You need insulation under. Yep, going back to what John said. Oh, he has good shoes. So that's good to know. Yeah, sleeping pad. If you're thinking about money to spend, that's where I would spend it. Is everyone here an ultralight hiker? I'm not there yet and feel like I wasted money last fall purchasing the Baltoro. No, I don't think everyone's ultralight. If you think about it, even I, I consider myself a lightweight hiker. I'm not at that 10-pound mark. I will be in the summer, but the other times, fall, spring, winter, I won't be there. I'll be the lightweight category, probably a base weight of a little over 11 pounds. Yeah, actually, I think a large portion of the audience is not ultralight. Tim just wants me to. Yeah, if people want to send dehydrated food samples my way, let me know. You're welcome, Tom. See you later. Right socks wear out too fast. Really? You've had problems with right socks wearing out, George? Have you sent them back? Because they will replace them for you. I've had an issue. I have about 4 pairs of them and haven't had an issue where, well, I've had one kind of get a hole by the toe, and I sent it in just like darn tough, and they sent me back a pair. So rain gear, which is better, pants or a kilt? I like wearing a kilt, Kurt, just because I don't like stopping, and so I can just kind of pull the kilt out, put it on, and I feel like a rain pants, I would just get too hot too fast, and so the kilt is also multifunctional, and I use it as a ground sheet. Okay, ultralight is more a mindset than a weight category. All right, it seems like we're closing off, guys. I think we kind of hit everything we're going to talk on tonight. We are at 57 minutes, so we're coming up on the hour. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you liked watching. And as always, we'll do this kind of every other week. The best ways to kind of make sure you keep track of what's going on is to click the bell next to the subscribe button. You can also follow on Twitter to make sure you know when I go live. I'll always tweet that out, as well as on Facebook. I always post the morning before I go live, so you kind of know what is going on. All right, guys. I think that's kind of it. It's always good to see you guys in the chat every time. And so thanks for watching. So, peace.